worried about her.
What are you worried about?
She's just being really snotty and not taking as much of her milk as she normally does.
So how much is she taking of her milk?
I mean, she is taking most of it. She's leaving kind of maybe half an ounce at the end, but she's so tired after she finishes it that she just falls straight asleep, and she just looks like it's really hard work for her. Oh, sweetie.
Is she breathing harder?
A little bit. She kind of she looks like she's going like that a little bit, and just struggling to get her breath a little bit.
Is that while she's feeding or after the feed?
Both a little bit. It gets a bit worse when she's had her bottle.
How long has she been snotty for?
Couple of days.
Okay.
I think there's the older ones have got like a little bit of a cold, so it's going on nursery at the moment.
It's that time of year as well, isn't it? All of those illnesses that you're off for. Okay, well, I mean, it's great that she is feeding still at the moment, but obviously we are concerned if she would stop feeding or taking less than where she is at the moment. So just want to run through a few things that you might need to look out for, just to see if she's getting a little bit worse. So where she's leaving half an ounce, that's probably okay at the moment, but where she's still so snotty, it's probably worth just trying to give her less feed more often.
Okay.
And then that just might help a little bit, so it's not so hard on her breathing.
Okay, so she's having it about every 4 hours-ish at the moment, so do you reckon every couple of hours give her half the amount?
Yeah, every couple of hours and give her half amount, see what happens with that. It might be that she needs to have a small amount every hour or so initially, just to see what's going on. But I mean, she is snotty, I can hear and see it, but she looks okay with it. So it's only issues getting worse and we might move on to that stage. Okay. But if you thought that was happening, then I'd quite like you to talk to us anyway, so that you're not doing that on your own. And we can review and we can go through the feeding with you and just making sure that she's getting the right amount. But every couple of hours at the moment, give her half seems like a sensible thing. What can happen with little babies is a thing called bronchiolitis, which is basically where the smallest bit of their lungs can just get a bit filled with gunk. And obviously her lungs are very little, so it affects her breathing and her feeding mainly. And so if we try and reduce her feeds a little bit, then that should help. And from her snotty nose point of view, you can get some saline nasal drops from the chemist, and you can just give a couple of drops in her nose, and that might make it a little bit easier to clear out, especially if she's quite hard bogies with it. You want to soften it a little bit to be able to remove those. So you can get that from the counter as well. Has she had a temperature at all?
She has been feeling a little bit hot. I haven't measured it, but she has been a bit hot. Should I be measuring?
You can check. So if she had a temperature over 38, then that's what we class as a temperature. Anything under that, sort of either not a temperature or getting towards a temperature. She's 4 months old, isn't she?
Yeah. So
we'd be particularly more worried if she was over 39 for her temperature. But over 38, we'd look at that. You can get things over the counter like paracetamol and ibuprofen to help with the temperature. However, I would advise not using that solely for the temperature, but if she's distressed and seems in pain, and then give some paracetamol. If that doesn't work, if she's still distressed and still a high temperature, and then you can add in ibuprofen as well.
So you can give them both?
You can give them both, yeah. Don't give them at the same time, but you'll try one, and then a few hours later you can give the other one. Paracetamol would only be 4 times in 24 hours, and ibuprofen 3 times in 24 hours. So just make sure that if you buy those from the chemist, that you just look at the bottle and check that you're following their guidance.
And does that tell me how much to give?
It will, yeah. And it should come with a syringe as well, so you can measure out how much to give for her.
See what you think of that, won't we?
Yeah, see what happens with that one. How have her nappies been?
She's still been having wet nappies. She's still been having most of her feeds, so it seems okay.
Okay.
At the moment.
So again, if she's to get worse, if she didn't have a wet nappy at all in 12 hours, then we'd want you to get urgent medical review for that. But where she's still having wet nappies at the moment, that sounds good as well, and that's what we'd want to happen with her. It's hard when your main source of breathing is all blocked up with your snot, isn't it?
So is it serious then, this bronchiolitis?
It's one of the most common things that we see in hospital every year. A lot of children will have bronchiolitis and not need hospital.
So my older ones, they have snotty noses, but
and they weren't as bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes children do require hospital, and that will be if their breathing gets worse, and if they're not able to maintain their own feeding as well. And so they're just why we'd look out for those symptoms, and just why I'm explaining those things to you. If she did need to go into hospital, then they might put a tube in her nose that goes all the way to her tummy as a way of feeding her, and they might they might give her some oxygen to help with the breathing as well. There is no cure for bronchiolitis, there's no antibiotics or anything like that we can give. It's just giving her time to get over it. So yeah, we just want her to have time to get over it, and hopefully you won't have to go into hospital. You'll just be fine at home.
Okay.
It won't be an issue.
So if she does get worse and she's not feeding, or she's really, really hot, what should I do?
If her temperature's over 39, and if her breathing is sort of really, really struggling, or she's not breathing, or you see more pauses in between her breathing over 10 seconds, then good to go to A&E and get medical review urgently. If she's not like that and she just carries on with her snot in the feeding, we can review in a couple of days. You can phone if you're more worried. You can also go to your GP as well if you want to get her checked out there. So yeah, the stuff I've asked you to look out for would be if she needs an urgent treatment, and otherwise if there's less of that, it would just be getting probably the GP to have a look at her.
Right. Hopefully it'll be okay, won't we, sweetie?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
No problem.